Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Righty, hello. It's Thursday. It's the 23rd of October. And Mr. Thomas, you told me last time. Thomas.
What?
Middle name.
Oh, William.
William, I thought so. I almost said it, but then I didn't trust my memory. Thomas William Sokolowski is with us. Hello.
Thank you.
Yes. So, you said we haven't talked at all about that. You've got something about the Canadian
and I'm going to see if everyone's going to scream when I say
I
this.
bet you're going to say something awful. All right, go ahead.
No, not awful.
People are dead.
No, I don't mean awful. But I don't know, what sort of bothers me is that everyone gets so, like when the guy at the White House leapt over the fence, or they caught him. Why should members of Parliament, Congress, have such a grand cavalcade of people surrounding them just because they're sitting in a seat in Congress or Parliament? I mean, it's not like the Holy Grail has to be guarded, whether it's Canada or we have people there.
Because they are personifications of our government or Canada's government.
It's part of it. I mean, I guess what struck me about it is, well, two things. One, it goes up with this whole Ebola thing. Yes, we must be very aware, and there must be medical procedures, etc. But the chances of Ebola taking over,
I know it's ridiculous.
Craziness.
Yeah.
Didn't you love my favorite moment of the week thus far has been when Rwanda said,
"You can't. I won't check Americans coming in."
Because in the midst of it, they've kept their country safe from Ebola, and I thought,
I loved it. In case you hadn't heard, Rwanda. Which does not have African nation, which has no Ebola cases.
And we know all those African countries are dirty.
Yeah, right. They're saying no American is going to fly into their country without getting a full medical review and without being checked while they're here because they're coming from a country
with incidents of Ebola,
Ebola. And I love it since there's so much racial crap.
Right.
With
it shows.
Did you hear a black woman,
no.
American, on a plane from Dallas to God knows where last week, threw up?
Oh yeah, I read about this. Yeah, right.
I don't know. Have you ever thrown up on a plane?
Thank God, no.
I have.
Okay. Into the airbag, I hope?
Yes, into the airbag. And people started freaking out because they come from Dallas. She was black.
Right.
And she went to the bathroom, and a flight attendant said, "You cannot leave that bathroom."
Oh, that's right. She threw up in the bathroom. That's right. They locked her in.
They stuck her in the bathroom for the entire flight. It doesn't matter that she...
It was like cracked crab she had at Arby's or something.
Now, if a white male had thrown up on that plane, he would not have been locked in the bathroom for the duration.
You're probably right.
I know I am.
I mean, the other thing that comes up about this is, and it struck me because it's sort of in a funny way, like 9/11, although it doesn't have quite the enormity, but this fact that, Canada being this quiet, pure, safe place, and all of a sudden...
Bang.
Ah!
Well, it's...
Well, I remember when, I think I told you I taught for a year in Canada. And it was during that year that someone attacked. It wasn't anything to do with government, but there was this vicious murder in Montreal, I believe it was. And at the time, Pierre Trudeau was Prime Minister, or Premier. Was it? Yeah,
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister.
And he evoked, and everyone in the country was freaked out because everyone, of course, watches American television, American, detective shows and law shows, etc. And they all assumed that Canada had a Bill of Rights, which they didn't. And this came up because this was such a vicious murder, or whatever it was, and this guy was on the loose, he had murdered a couple of people, that Trudeau evoked what was their equivalent of martial law. And the police could go and bash down any door in Montreal looking in the sky. So anyway, what then happened was, it was very interesting because at that point, he also felt that, having a Bill of Rights was a good thing. So because they were still in the Commonwealth, if they were to vote on this, let me step back one. Their constitution was not held in Canada. It was held with the Queen in England. And he felt that to get a decision, because some of the right-wingers didn't believe in a Bill of Rights. So what he did was he went to England sort of suddenly and said, "Oh, Queen, I'm going to ask for our Constitution back, but you put in a Bill of Rights, and therefore it's already in there when I got it back." So he did that. Happened? That's what happened. And then there was all such a to-do because everyone felt he pulled a fast one, which he had, but he had very efficiently pulled a fast one.
Boy, that whole story begs a million questions, none of which I'm going to ask.
Good. Good. I remember he brought home the Constitution. That was a big headline. But yeah, Bill of Rights. So anyway. Well, deja vu all over again. I mean, I was thinking on the way here, they're reacting as if this is their 9/11. And I'm thinking, two people. Come on, guys. Get a grip. But it's an attack on it's recognized for you attack a symbol of you attack a symbol of the two symbols of the nation. But do we know that in each or both cases it was
it was the same
terrorist?
Guy apparently.
Oh,
well, it's whatever you. Oh. The thing is, I heard a member of Parliament being interviewed, and the interviewer kept trying to get him to say that this was an act of
terrorism,
Islamic terror.
Oh, ISIL, yeah.
Not ISIL, just Islamic, fundamentalist Islamic terror. And he wouldn't do it. He just kept saying this is a deranged person.
Interesting.
But it's a deranged person who thought, without a doubt, that he was being a terrorist, right? Yeah. And he has a reason
it wasn't as if
but he was saying, come on. This guy was a nut. But then again, a lot of those guys are nuts. Well,
but nuts with a purpose are very different than someone who just walks down Smithfield Street with a hatchet. The end purpose and the end result is the same. But if I just go out and say I'm going to kill this woman because I don't like her dress, it's very different from.
Did you get that stuff on my silk blouse? Well, don't. All right.
I did not. Ugh. No, but it's very different to say I'm going to go and chop the head
right,
of.
Okay. So he was a nut who had some sense of a political.
Yes.
And in that regard, he was successful because he freaked out and froze the nation's capital.
Worse than that, those 3 teenage girls from Denver.
Yeah.
That's even more ridiculous. From Denver, how can you be a Islamic militant?
Well, you can
Denver?
be what? Well, see, I think what all of this is what all of this is pointing out is that there are in our country, in Canada, all over, there are younger you can come up with a million words. Disengaged, disillusioned, disturbed.
Well, I saw
young people who want to, join this. So
there was an American black guy they interviewed somewhere in the Middle East. I think it was Syria. This is about a week or two ago, and he was talking. They found this tape to, I guess, friends back in America, and yeah, we'd be sitting at home toking up and maybe stealing a car. But here, I just killed 3 people this morning. And then I almost got to rape this girl. And wow, this is real fun. I mean,
no, you're kidding.
No,
Where did you see that?
It was on CBS or ABC or one of those. It was that point of, I have a boring life. I live.
Well, right, and you're
and
young.
Now I'm a
you're
zealot.
young. You're stupid. You're crazy, and well, so this
people
is going to happen in these
you.
kind of lone wolf attacks.
Yeah.
And if the lone wolf was a little bit more careful than this guy, first of all, the fact that he got in as close as he was literally steps away from the Canadian government. The Prime Minister was in a room right there. And he turned the wrong way. He clearly he didn't know where. I mean, if you were going to do this thing, you would say, okay, and then I'm gonna shoot the guard, then I'm gonna run up the stairs, and then I'm gonna run right into the caucus room, and I'm gonna take out the Prime Minister and as many other guys as I can. He could have literally taken out.
But he didn't plan. He didn't have a plan.
It's weird.
Hence my Smithfield analogy.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, we live in strange times, and that's just the way it's going to be. But I wish people stop freaking out like they do. It's media. They just can't let anything alone.
Well, it's funny. I'm writing a piece, which I'm a little late for.
We have a call. Okay. Hello there. Hi.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey, what can we expect when we invade countries that we're not supposed to invade, bomb places we're not supposed to bomb, and then we take down our economy? It's all related to us. We cause all the terrorists. I mean, you're going to have some of it. We've been obsessed with the Middle East for how long? What do you expect?
No, it's true.
It's all the United States, and I'm not even sure we're not terrorists for bombing in Iraq like we did. All the Iraqi children we killed, the families we destroyed.
Well, don't you remember weapons of mass destruction?
Killing people. So, we're just as bad.
Well, it's very interesting. I think I mentioned this on a show a month ago or two, but there's a British writer who was interviewed, a classicist. But anyway, in the midst of it, she also does pieces on political things. And she wrote, I think it was 2 weeks after 9/11, and she said just what this gentleman has said. And at that time, fire and brimstone rained on her.
The chicken's coming home to roost.
But she said, subsequently, she said, no, my timing, and I realized it was...
because you don't want to,
rub salt in the wound. But she said, but I do not take back what I said. The timing was terrible. Like at a funeral, you don't say, your husband had an affair, sister. But
no, you don't say, I'm so sorry he died of that heart attack, but he ate like a pig. And no, this is what you did. He did it to himself. Right, and this is just desserts.
But the point was, you're absolutely right, sir. I mean, like weapons of mass destruction, which we knew then was a total pile of crap. And we do that. We did that with what was the guy's name in Panama?
Noriega.
We did it with Gaddafi. We did it with so many. And then when all of a sudden, and they're not stupid people, these tyrants. And then they say, "Hey, I don't need the Americans now."
Okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Were we arguing the other day? I mean, yes, about specifically whether Neanderthals and Homo sapiens interbred?
No, what we were arguing about was whether they were only, what's the word? Contemporaneous. That was what we were arguing about.
Okay, because I know I always said we were. There was overlap, and we were screwing around, the two of us.
As always it was.
Yes. I mean, the differences weren't that great. It was just, we were screwing around. So, believe it or not, we all have little bits of Neanderthal in us. We do. And they found much more evidence of that. This is from today's. Scientists have reconstructed the genome of a man who lived 45,000 years ago in Siberia. This is by far the oldest genetic record ever obtained from what's considered a modern human. And it clearly shows that humans had interbred with Neanderthals, because 45,000 years ago,
Is a short
the
period of
genetic
time, yeah.
Neanderthal genetic link was much more apparent. It gets because Neanderthals did die out. You can't. My guess is, you know what? And I think I got this from reading something somewhere. My guess is that the Neanderthal in us might be some of our better stuff in some ways. I know you laugh.
Now she is an anthropologist.
No, because
in addition to being a
we like to
scold.
We like to think of Neanderthals as like knuckle draggers and they look dumb and all this kind of stuff.
Well, they probably did all that.
Well, fine, but we weren't any better.
No. Sure.
And my guess is that we were triumphant. Because the Neanderthals died out. We
had certain genetic things.
No, you know what we had?
What?
We were more aggressive.
Oh.
We took them out.
Well, we had certain skills, I would say.
I don't know.
We had certain skills.
The victor took out the weaker
I think
ones.
you're being very moralistic there, my dear Lynn.
Nah.
Well, because it's just...
And I think the Neanderthal in us is probably the better stuff.
Oh, shut up.
What?
That's silly.
No, it's
Well,
not.
wait. I was just going to make the allusion to the dinosaurs. They talk about the fact that when the huge asteroid fell into the Gulf of Mexico, it's not that it landed on all the dinosaurs. It would have been pretty big.
No, of course not.
But it, flooded in them.
No. It set up... You know what it was?
System where the larger
it was
dinosaurs,
an atmospheric reaction.
And the larger of the dinosaurs...
All the vegetation died off.
Well, but also they couldn't move fast enough, whereas some of the smaller ones, ran farther to other places where they could find vegetation, etc.
Were you there?
I went to dinosaurs, whatever it's called.
You were on vacation in Belize. You noted the entire event.
You have a PhD in anthropology and paleontology. Now, anyway, but the point is, they died off because they couldn't adapt. Their skills couldn't adapt to a different world.
Okay.
It wasn't that they were kinder and gentler than the
But
raptors.
I just want, before you get on your high horse and look down at Neanderthals, Neanderthals are us. Okay? All right?
Fair enough.
All right? So get off their backs. Maybe they could have had a slightly bigger forehead and not quite as much of a brow ridge.
Have you ever
but if
seen
you think
Arnold
Richard Nixon,
Schwarzenegger?
Richard Nixon he looked a little Neanderthal if you think about it.
Schwarzenegger did.
Nixon
did not look Neanderthal. Maybe Pat did, but I don't think
that poor woman.
Oh, yeah, that poor Pat with the nicotine-stained fingers. That's all I can ever remember about her.
You saw her fingers?
No, but it was always written about. She was so prim that her fingers were just... And she would never show them because she smoked like 82 packs of cigarettes a day. Wouldn't you if you were married to him?
Oh, God.
And had that twerpy son-in-law, that Eisenhower kid.
Oh, come on.
He was so
now, listen, let me just tell you. My sense is that David Eisenhower is a good guy. He comes from good people. And that Julie, his wife, was the impressive daughter.
Of the two. The other one was the Gidget one.
Who knows what the other one was?
That's right. But she married some handsome kid, I remember. Blonde.
Cox.
Yeah, what was he? He was a lawyer, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, I didn't think he was that handsome.
Although that stupid Julie was on the committee who sort of bangled him out with Frank Geary's monument.
All right. Well, whatever. But she always struck me as, I always have felt for her. And that David and she are, I think, really good people.
Well, maybe he should run for president, or maybe she should.
No, and thank God that they pulled away. Because there's another. Those are those.
Should run for president. Well, it's probably true, actually, but
okay. I have a few little items here that
in her nest she ruffles. Oh, that's sort of interesting. That little article. I didn't read it, but I saw the pip about Converse shoes.
I'm not going to talk about Converse shoes.
Oh, all right.
If there's Converse shoes in here, I don't know how they got here. I just want to let people know it's I truly hate the Republican Party. I do admit it. I admit it.
Oh,
I hate them.
news, listeners, news.
All right, wait a minute. And we're about to witness, in just a few weeks, a Republican triumph in this nation, in which they will retain their power in the House in control of the House of Representatives, and could well
I would
control the Senate as well. And this, when quite clearly the country is moving, Republicans, well, listen to the kinds of things they do. I mean, they are so bad for our country. They're bad. We had Janet Yellen, the Fed chief, the other day warning that the biggest threat to our nation is this incredible inequality and the fact that there's no opportunity, and more people are being pushed down, and we're not addressing it. Well, they're being pushed down because of specific legislation that is passed that makes the rich richer and makes the poor poorer. Here is a case.
Well,
this doesn't get
it's
any
not even
attention.
the poorer. It's really the 1% thing. So that even middle class people are not in such great shape.
Over the last 2 years, no one pays attention, but 8 states controlled by Republicans have passed legislation. Now, this won't sound like much. Allowing the lending industry, banks, to increase interest rates and fees on personal loans given to financially struggling borrowers and poor people.
Well, have you noticed?
Just stop and think. Stop and think the implication of that. The implication is, first of all, and the article I read makes clear, this legislation in all these states came about because the lobbying arm of the banking industry started throwing some money around.
Well,
and buys enough. They buy the Republican legislators, and it doesn't take much because they love this kind of thing, where you stack the deck a little bit more. And it says that their lobbyists overcame unusually. In North Carolina, there was opposition coming from a very strange source that really heroically tried to push this thing back. Guess where it was coming from? The U.S. military. Specifically, a commander of a base in North Carolina. I can't think of what base is in North Carolina, but clearly I think there's quite a few, actually. And he kept telling the legislators, hey, you guys care about the military? You're always talking about these heroes. Well, let me tell you, they don't have 2 cents to rub together, most of them. And these are the guys that need loans that come to you so that they can, whatever. And you're screwing them. This is going to harm our troops.
Well, and with that also, the banks, in addition to that, I've just noticed, sort of parenthetically, that in the last month, I think I've gotten a credit card offer every day, which had not been true for the past couple of years.
Yeah, they're back. There's no.
And what it also means is, because that wouldn't mean anything, but I have a feeling the requirements in the past, which had been rather terrible, like if you had any one late credit bill.
They're loosening again. Yeah,
they're loosening. So of course we're going to get back to why we
haven't done a damn thing to correct. We've done very little, but unbelievably, some of these laws allow interest rates of like 30-some percent.
What's going to a loan shark or one of those
it's
places
no different than like
on the street?
Exactly. And this is legal. In Republican states, you damn well betcha this kind of thing is legal. Here's another Republican state. Let me give you another one. A woman named Kathleen Murphy was widowed recently. her wife, okay, had died, and Ms. Murphy applied to the Social Security Administration for survivor's benefits and the standard death payment. She was turned down because although the couple had wed in Massachusetts, they had, I don't know what they were thinking, moved to Texas.
Oh, yeah, right.
And do you know Texas, of course, is one of the states where you can't marry, does not recognize same-sex marriage. And so she has been denied what would accrue to any other married person. Now stop and think about this in a few ways. First of all, do you know how many states are left that don't allow gay marriage?
5, I think.
No.
4. No, I think there are very
not
few.
That bad. No, 18.
Really? Oh, I thought most.
But 18's amazing.
No, it's true. It is.
Well over half of the states of this nation allow same-sex marriage.
More than
and the
two-thirds.
others are toppling left and right.
Yeah.
Excuse
But not
me.
Texas.
Well, not Texas. But it turns out, and this is how, you can't allow something like this to be left to the states. You can't.
Well, you know, it's
and the Supreme Court should not have passed on the opportunity to just wipe out this nonsense for gay Americans.
Because what we found in the last sort of even 3-4 months is that a lot of these state referenda, or where they've been, gone through their state Supreme Courts, they literally, I mean, at least this newsreaders, have been embarrassed into it. Like the legislatures, I mean, the state Supreme Courts may have struck it down, may not struck it down, but they thought, oh, we can't look like Neanderthals, pardon the pun. But Texas doesn't care. They don't care if the whole country thinks they're moronic because they enjoy being moronic.
Well, what's weird, though, too, is that the Department of Veterans Affairs...
Oh, they're bad. Yeah.
Wait, but they, too, they rely on the state laws.
Right.
So even though President Obama has mandated that all federal agencies, I guess, stop discriminating against gays, the fact is that the Social Security Administration and the VA have within their own whatever, and so this is...
Well, they tell stories, let's say, of two women who are lesbians and are married. The one is off fighting in Syria or something, getting shot at, and her partner cannot go to the PX
I saw that. Yeah.
and buy food at a reasonable rate for their joint children. I mean, it's just horrific.
The article says, had the couple lived in any of the fast-rising number of states now offering same-sex marriage, Ms. Murphy would have been granted the survivor benefits like that. So to deny the payment solely because of where the couple happened to live amounts to the exact same violations that the Supreme Court struck down in the Windsor decision, which did end the Defense of Marriage Act.
But the eyes of Texas were upon them.
Yeah. And so this will not stand. This will not stand.
But it's not going to go down easy.
But it's also...
It's going to take a couple of years.
This is also not unlike our own state, in which now gay people can marry, but gay people do not have the protection of discrimination in employment and where you live. Why can't I think of what that word is? And all of that, so you can marry, and then be thrown out of your job for having married. You tell me how much sense that makes. And the only reason that's Daryl Metcalf. And I want to thank all you folks out there in Wexford. Thank you very much, because your representative is single-handedly making the lives of your neighbors and friends and family and fellow Pennsylvanians who happen to be homosexual different than yours, in that they do not have the same protection.
Maybe a stained glass window will fall on him.
God, what a vile human being.
Oh, really? Well, I hope.
But we're going to get more of them because that's who's getting elected. And I hate to tell you that when this election happens in a few weeks, the Republicans who will be going to Washington, many of them are going to make the lunatics there now look reasonable.
Look reasonable.
They just keep coming up with more and more. I mean, off the chart.
Well, I mean, like this one.
cases.
What's this guy's name? I'd never heard of, but his commercials around. Stefani. Who, this other woman, Kuala, or whatever her name is, I don't even know who she is. I mean, they do make her look like one of the Ori sisters. But, she took her per diem. Well, I mean, people, when you work, that's what you do. And and then it turns out he stole Christmas
lights or something when he was younger. This is not.
Well, what's interesting, though, is it seems.
By the way, he'll win.
He probably will. Why? 'Cause she's ugly?
No, it's just that the gerrymandering. That's going to be they gerrymander that so he would win.
Well, now what do you think in terms of our governor, as you like to say?
But he's gone. He's toast.
Well, it seems like though, but the gap is narrowing, which it always does.
And you know
elections,
what? That was in the Post-Gazette. You saw that headline. The gap is narrowing.
So. Well, but I thought it was like Marist or one of these.
It was
polls.
not. It was a Republican polling company that came up with the gap is narrowing, and it didn't dovetail with other more respected. But the headline didn't tell you that.
No, of course not.
The headline misled you.
Yeah.
Because newspapers want
to be sensational.
Well, because they want to add drama where there is none.
Before the caller came up before, I'm doing this essay, which I'm late at. No one's hearing that in Australia, by the way. But anyway, and I wrote to someone, and I said, can I have a few more days because I have fever and, blah, blah, blah. And someone wrote back saying, do you have Ebola?
You're kidding me.
No, my dear, that's just the newspapers. But she said even there, she was slightly kidding, I think.
In Australia?
Yeah, but they just read what we're putting out.
What's your essay about?
It is about an Aboriginal, a Pakeha / Maori. Pakeha is the Maori word for white.
Okay.
White, half white, half Aboriginal, half Maori artist named Michael Parakofi, who they're doing a major mid-career retrospective of his work in Brisbane, Australia, and he's a very, very, very interesting artist who I have known for almost 25 years when I first went to New Zealand and met him. Very thoughtful, interesting, and especially because a lot of the issues that he takes up are very analogous to our relations to Native Americans,
oh sure,
as well as or African Americans.
No, the same thing they did to their Native Americans, Native Australians, what we did.
Well, no, this is New Zealand, and the difference. And I make a point of this.
But they did the same thing.
No, because New Zealand was the only place in the wild, where when the British or any other colonizers came. And these are in the words of Captain James Cook, as in Cook Travel, who found all the Polynesia.
Give me a break.
Most people today would know.
Come on.
How many people know who are listening who James Cook is? Anyway, and he wrote, these people are so fearsome and honorable that we had to sign the Treaty of Waitangi, giving them responsibility. That the British could buy their lands, but they would still have certain rights over them, and they would respect blah blah blah.
And right.
Well, but still,
we signed a lot of treaties.
But what's interesting though, it's just in terms of parlance. Many people today. I remember it struck me when I got there. Many words, instead of saying white, people say Pakeha, or a lot of the Maori words are part of it. And there was the chosen first usage is a Maori word. So it's very, very interesting. But, of course, the hoi polloi of Maoris tend to be poorer, have problems of illness, drunkenness, drug addiction, etc., just as Native Americans, African Americans, poor, etc., so it's not uninteresting.
No, I'm not dealing with that. Okay, I want to get into something before we get.
Yes, do.
I seem to be in a mood today.
Yes, you do.
I didn't know I was.
Are you sitting on a tack? Like
don't
the princess
know
and the pea?
what happened. I'm in a mood. I wasn't aware I was.
But you said it before I did.
Well, I know. I can tell I am. And somehow all
you
of
might
this...
be, I'm in the mood for love.
No, I'm not. Quite the opposite. All of this, I don't know. So, I don't want to
That
talk...
reminds me
I don't want to talk
of the New Yorker cartoon where there's a woman sitting very grandly at the piano and her husband, whoever is sitting there saying, Helen, you have no right to sing the blues. I always thought it was one of my favorite cartoons. So, you have no right to be in a mood. Then
No, it's true. It's true. I don't know why I am. Except maybe, my whole afternoon is planned out and I'm not looking forward to it. Maybe that's it.
See.
I literally been going from one doctor to another doctor.
I was going to say, dentist, dietitian.
No, it's just awful. It's just like
2 Dramamine,
awful.
please.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But isn't that such a middle-class life? First, I'm going to the gynecologist, then I'm going to the dermatologist. A doctor looks at every part of my my topography.
Do you know what's weird?
I was right.
You were right.
You upper middle-class bourgeois girls. And then I got to buy a frock and a tarte-tatin for dinner. I'm going to choke and die. Now I'm being the scold, or what was the word? Kochleffel, the pot stirrer.
Oh, dear.
I sort of like going to doctors in a funny kind of way, unless they're idiots, which mine aren't. Well, because they tell you, like, oh, yeah, you are not feeling well, you take a pill or whatever, or it's okay.
You've never had a gynecological exam.
I've had others that are intrusive.
Well, let me tell you, you don't look forward to them.
Well,
no, they're horrific. And then the dermatological exam is every bit as horrific, if not more.
Well, that's you
because
later,
it's they look at every they get into and this is under a strong light. Well, I got to tell you, do you know what?
It looks good.
Do you know what I was thinking?
And then they bring someone in and they say,
yeah, there's always
Dr. Jones, is it a pimple or is it a melanoma? Pimple melanoma. Pimple melanoma.
I can't bear it. I want to be, I think that they should offer anesthesia for that.
Yeah,
so
true.
I just put me in a twilight state and then have at my body.
Yeah,
but I don't want to be
conscious
it's funny.
We were talking earlier about doctors and training procedures, and I remember years ago. This would be 25 years ago or so. Harvard had decided partly on this level that doctors just had no sense of what they used to call, I guess still do,
bedside manner.
So what they did is, in the first day of medical school, they started doing, the knee bones connected to the shin bone kind of stuff. And then they would have people come in and see what were supposed to be patients, but were actors.
Yeah.
And then they told them how to say things. And they would say, well, when the doctor put his hand on you, did he ask first? Or did he just grab your hand? And then afterwards, they would say, oh, well, meet, Lana Turner here, who's been playing a nymphomaniac or whatever. And she'd say, well, doctor, he didn't do this. He didn't ask. He didn't seem to be listening to what I was saying. And I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, that's good training.
Yeah.
That's very good training.
But now, what has happened, I remember saying this to my doctor, who I like very much. I said, and this person is part of the UPMC system, but I'm sure it's true with the other ones as well. And as she is talking to me, and but she's typing into the computer like, oh yes, such and such, B572653, which is constipation or whatever. And then she does turn to me, but it's all has to be in the computer, and she's coding.
Stop that.
Sorry.
Because it's banging
I know, right? But it's hard because everything has become so quantitative that the qualitative, that's true of all life nowadays. But
it's all about
it's
data.
Looking like, well, Lynn, why do you feel you're in a mood? What is it? And maybe it can bring out
one of the most interesting people I ever met as a result of this kind of a job was a guy I interviewed maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I was on WTAE radio, and he had won a Nobel, not personally won a Nobel Peace Prize, but he had won it as the representative. He had gone to collect it as the representative of a group of physicians who were against maybe war. I don't know what, something I can't remember. But what I remember about him is he had a little book that I read, and it was about healing. How physicians heal people. And this had nothing whatsoever to do with anything that we encounter in modern medicine.
As in tests or
and it had to
CAT
do
scans
exactly with listening and observing and asking questions about the person's life. And it didn't even necessarily have to do with touch. It had to do with establishing. His name was Bernard Lown, Lown, and I must say that little book will knock your socks off.
Wow.
Oh gosh, it was just.
Well, it's very interesting.
He said to me, by the way, this is weird. He said to me after we were done, after he'd explained that you can learn so much if you will just observe and talk to and listen to your patient. And he said afterwards, he said, I can tell you, just having been here with you for an hour, that you have some thyroid problems. He was right.
Interesting. Wow.
He was right, and I forget how. Something about in my eyes, and this and that. I would think you have. I said, well, I do. I have, half a thyroid and this and that. He said, okay, but this is what I'm saying. He had learned to just by looking, listening, picking up on stuff. Wow.
Well, it's interesting. I was going to say one time.
But that takes time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, did you ever have to go to a doctor in a language you either didn't speak or spoke very poorly? I once had to in Italy. And my Italian was not bad, but it was having to do, I had sort of terrible bronchitis or something connected. It went on for months. So finally, a friend found this doctor who all the rich people went to. So I said, all right, let's go. And, I was saying my Italian was good, but I could say pain, but I couldn't, or cough, but I couldn't say, scratchy or irritable. And my friend came with me, but then I'd say, well, Ellen, how do you say, itchy cough? She said, I don't know what you mean, but I don't know how to say it in Italian. She spoke perfect Italian. And because of it, it was very hard for him to tell, because unless when I coughed,
there was that communication
that
problem.
But very interesting, because the things about our bodies are so subtle in many instances, unless you're bleeding.
But there's nothing subtle about the way most doctors in this country
exactly.
function. And I think our healthcare system is just broken, and I feel for the docs in many ways.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think in many respects they're well trained. I don't think they're put into a system that allows them to be good doctors. And they're under incredible pressure to not listen and to and to just move you out. That's why they're typing on to the next one, on to the next one.
Well,
on to the
we've
next
all made
one.
mistakes when we're in a mood or tired. I think I've said this many times in here, but again, just to make the point, Warhol died. He had serious surgery, but because they gave him
medical
normal
malpractice
thing to give as a kind of palliative thing, to give antibiotics after major surgery because of infection. And the doctor was tired, and it was 3 a.m, and he gave him this.
They OD'd him.
Well,
essentially.
What do you call it? Anaphylactic shock from penicillin? But it said
no penicillin. They killed him. He was killed in the hospital.
And that was simply because
and
it was a young doctor, and I'm sure you'd been on for 36 hours, didn't read everything. This was what was indicated for this kind of surgery.
I'm saying stay out of hospitals. I don't care.
Yeah.
They are places where if you're well, you'll get sick. There are places that if you're sick, you'll get sicker.
Yeah.
There are they just scare the bejeebers out of me. I do not ever want to be in one
two
again.
things about doctors. He said, isn't it interesting when you're talking about this one or that, when you say he does this, but a doctor you say he's practicing medicine.
Yeah,
like
I don't want somebody practicing.
Or the other thing
right.
he'd say, when a butcher makes a mistake, it's hamburger. When a doctor makes a mistake, they bury you. So for all you doctors listening out there.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to move on to a lighter subject. Than doctors killing you.
All right. Or hamburger.
And this has to do with something relatively new, which is this crowdsourcing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the biggies? Indigo. What? Kickstarter. Kickstarter was the first one. Right. So, the
$62,000 potato salad, where a guy wanted a recipe for potato salad to make potato salad, and it was sort of a joke, and $62,000 worth of people gave him money to make this potato salad.
You know what I don't get about those sites is why would you go? Okay, if you know the site is all about people begging for money, why would you go there?
Well, two things. I've given them money a couple of times.
I have too. But that's not because I went to Kickstarter. It's because I got an email.
Well, but I think a lot of people like the idea of A, the ballsiness of it, and I mean that as a
okay.
B,
Well, that's what I want to talk about.
An interesting product.
Okay.
And C, I mean, also because some of these of the 62,000, like most of it was $10 gifts. We're like, hey, that guy's crazy. He wants to make potato salad. Let's give him $10 for being ballsy. And everyone thought it was so fabulous,
Okay, here is the Wall Street Journal does a piece on the fact that increasingly. Do that away from the mic.
All right, like
you're belching. You keep twisting the cap off, and it goes, and then you're drumming on the table.
Sorry.
Jeez,
I'm in a mood.
I'm trying to think. Did I take my antidepressant today? I think I did. But see, this is what didn't I?
No, but it was.
Oh wait, I'm not hearing my. Are we okay?
And she's deaf.
Okay.
No. The only reason I would say that wouldn't matter because the drug takes a long while to get in and out of the system.
That's true.
So
I take it every day. Yeah. But for me, what it tamps down is not depression as much as it is hostility.
Ooh, I've been roll away
I know.
from you, girl.
I'm feeling. I just have this. There's this like edge on me today, which is not pleasant. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for that gynecologist in the afternoon. You may break his arm.
Her.
Oh, her. All right, her.
I would never go to a male gynecologist. Well, I did when I started.
Yeah, I've heard people say
I did when I started because that's all there were.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah. In the day, yeah.
Yeah. My mother's gynecologist was somebody that she knew, in their circles. Oh, Dr. Austin. And then he'd show up at dinner. I'm thinking, oh, God, I'm sorry. But I always see my my proctologist at parties.
Hi, Bill.
Oh, yeah. So, but everybody else
I hope
at
you're
the
not eating with your fingers at that meal.
All right, I don't know. Dear God.
Well, go back to crowdsourcing.
All right. So here's the thing. People are increasingly, listen to this, Gerald and Rachel Monaco of San Francisco were getting married, and they decided to ask their wedding guests to fund
the wedding,
their honeymoon.
Oh, the honeymoon. Okay.
They wanted to go to some Arctic resort where you sleep essentially
in an igloo,
in an igloo and on ice. And I've read about that place.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I think that is
ludicrous.
I think it's disgusting.
Well,
that's not for
on one level.
pay pay for my, and increasingly people are doing this. One woman, and she was successful, it is beyond me, gets on Kickstarter or something, and then emails all of her contacts to go to that site for, she'd had a rough few months or something, and decided she needed a vacation in Florence.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked them, she figured she needed $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
She asked her friends for $5,000 to send her. And you know what? She got it, but she also acknowledges that she hasn't heard from some of those friends since. Because it really is.
The ones who gave her, the ones who didn't.
And then she said, some people I thought I was close to never responded and never mentioned the trip at all. Well, because they're thinking you're an asshole.
Well, what's very interesting about that is I went to a lecture that the inventor and head of Kickstarter, I can't remember his name, gave at the Children's Museum because it was the day before some conference on sort of startups and whatever. And he made made 2 points. Number one, they had chosen, although now they're sort of backtracking and they're going to set up Kickstarter 2, or it's going to have a different name, Crowd Pleaser, whatever it's called. Because they won't, like you could not, let's say you said, I have a child who needs a heart transplant, whatever. And I would say, hey, honey, you're poor, how wonderful. They will not give to any kind of charity or anything like that. They will not allow that, although they're thinking about doing a different kind. But part of it is, what they're interested in is, what can you put... Yes, products that do something like some of these new gizmos that may do something interesting, so you can check your cell phone and put it on top of a rock and it will charge or something without electricity. But they also like the idea, and hence crowdsourcing, crowd pleasing, and all this. Anything that if you put it out and are clever enough in a kind of blurb on the web, if it interests people, they're interested in it. Like, it's sort of like, well, if you're damn fool enough to give to it, I think that's interesting. That guy had chutzpah. So the one who's saying, hey, I can't afford to go to the Antarctica and sleep in an igloo. Hey, if you're dumb enough to want to pay for it.
Well, I'm glad to say the ones who wanted to have their money? They didn't get the money.
I see.
They got up to
but except if they got gifts at a wedding, like if someone said, here's a check.
People disregarded it and gave them, a toaster.
Okay, fair enough.
And that should tell. And now while I'm on it, let me squawk about these destination weddings.
Oh yes, right.
Okay. If you want to go get married on a beach somewhere,
Bora Bora,
5,000 miles from your house, go do it. But don't invite people to. I mean, if
unless
they want
you can. I know someone who's very rich and he paid for a plane, but that's very different.
You take people with you, fine.
Right.
But people shouldn't have to shell out that kind of money
and then give
to see you get married when odds are you'll get divorced in 5 years. I mean, why even? It's disgusting.
Oh, she is in a mood. Downer Lynn today.
I'm sorry. I can't help it.
But I thought when he was saying that, the Kickstarter guy, I thought that was very interesting in the sense of that as a younger person, I guess he had to be in his early 30s, just like, because it was really, I thought of it as, at first when I, given a little bit of money to it, well, here are people, grassroots, trying ideas, and it's sort of like those Shark Tank programs on a very minimal level. But it was much more out of the marketing, and I think this guy actually came out of a marketing business. Like, what can you, what was the H.L. Mencken, or was it Mencken? A Sucker's Born Every Minute?
No, that's Barnum.
Barnum, all right. But it was part of that. Like, hey, if I can make a big enough ploy, you'll buy the product once. You may not buy it twice, but you'll buy it once, and so too with this.
So I read on the bus on the way here that Mark Zuckerberg,
yes,
the genius behind Facebook,
right?
Although those twin brothers say it was.
Oh yes, the
what is their name?
The Van Lugenwoodens.
What jerks?
Yeah, what is their name?
Anyway, he was over in China recently.
Yeah.
And he gave a speech to a bunch of Chinese students. in Mandarin.
Wow.
Now that, I got to tell you, that's the most un-American thing I ever heard. Americans don't speak somebody else's language. We expect to go to their country, speak English, and have them understand us. It's so un-American, and I think
it's
way
brilliant.
to go. I mean, my God, that's a tough language.
Yeah. I'd never
He's
heard that
been
he was,
studying
English.
it for 4 years. And he went and he apologized going in about, I don't know necessarily idiomatic and this and that. But they were charmed out of their minds.
Well,
and Facebook is not allowed in China.
Yeah, right,
you know
exactly.
That?
Well, that's why he went.
Well, you know what? One of the questions from one of the kids was, do you think because you've come here and you've spoken in our language and this and that then the government will allow Facebook? And somebody else cut in and answered for him, saying, you ever heard the old Chinese, which is essentially, I forget. It was like, in your dreams or, forget about it.
Well, he and she both, because I guess it's a joint foundation, just gave some tremendous gift.
For Ebola.
Ebola.
They gave it to
$25 million or something, or more. Was it $1 billion?
No, it was $100 million.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
And this, that's impressive. First, it's really impressive.
Well, because also, you can't put one person necessarily against another, but look how long it took before Bill Gates gave up any money. He, up until, what was it, about 5 years ago?
No, it was longer. He put his father in charge of the foundation.
But
it was easily 10 years. Well, he's made up for it.
Well, he's made up for it, but it was sort of, I respect people who, maybe he could give a lot more now than he could before, but who just sort of said, I remember I had an artist who once came to speak at the museum, and she had begun to get a name, but she wasn't Warhol, that kind of money. Her works were selling for like $5,000. And she had already made a small foundation to give young artists like a $1,500, $2,000 grant, which can go a long way to help you make a certain body of work.
Well, some people by nature are charitable.
There's a certain sense of, I don't think philanthropy is necessarily quantitative. Yeah, we remember the billions.
I don't have the sense that Warhol was philanthropic.
He was in a very quiet way. Yeah, he gave money to various charities. Yeah. But he was not someone who, hey, I'm giving you $1 million. No, he was not someone who gave an amount of money that was appropriate, or not appropriate, but that was about appreciable percentage of his amount. But everyone keeps saying, that all these surveys, the highest percentage of philanthropic giving is usually among middle or lower middle
it's not
class,
the rich.
not the rich.
Right.
What is Ray saying to us?
Lynn and Thomas William, he says. These people asking for money from friends reminds me of a word my mother loved to use, but I never hear anymore. Gauche.
Oh, I love gauche.
Yeah, gauche. It is gauche.
It really is.
It's also chutzpah.
Yeah. Well, it's a little different. Chutzpah and gauche.
Chutzpah is gall. And gauche is bad taste. Gauche has to do more with...
can also be partly good, too. It's not always a bad thing.
Not always, you're
right. Gauche is
always.
Gauche is tacky, really.
Yeah, tacky. And William, thank you. It's the Winklevoss.
The Winklevoss, that's right.
Winklevoss.
And I remember one actor portrayed both Winklevosses.
And you know that actor's name?
No, I don't remember.
I'm thinking it's Armand Hammer.
Well, I know what Arm Hammer looks like.
We got a call?
I shook Arm Hammer. He was not.
No, I know.
Attractive man.
Yeah. Hello, caller.
Yeah. Hey, you too. One of the great success stories that's not getting enough publicity in this Ebola outbreak is the Gates Medical Center in Nigeria.
Oh, okay.
Nigeria is, right next to.
Yeah.
And
they stopped the outbreak dead.
Right, dead in its tracks.
Nigeria has really turned out in many ways to be a very enlightened country.
As opposed to the United States.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
or I would say, fair enough. Yeah, I was talking about other African nations. But
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. But that's true. Yeah, Nigeria manages. Rwanda tells us we ain't letting any of you diseased Americans in. I love it. I
that was like the middle finger.
Yeah, I love it.
It really was so brilliant.
Wow!
Ebola has entered the studio. Clang, clang, clang. It is the end of the world.
It's the end of the show.
Oh, wasn't it right around Halloween that Orson Welles did that thing? What was it called? War of the Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Halloween.
I thought it was.
Was it? It was Halloween.
And that no one. Well, no, majority of people who heard it didn't believe it, but he was so. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Well, sure they do. The War of the Worlds?
Yeah,
are you kidding?
kids?
My audience? You think they don't know?
Yes, we don't get young people listening to us, do we? I mean, young people would know. Betcha.
Let's find out. Celine.
Yep.
Do you know Orson Welles' the War of the Worlds? Do you know what that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You do know.
But Celine's smart.
She's just looking to see what the date was.
The initial broadcast, and the date was October 30th.
Yeah, it was Halloween. You're right.
You can believe me. That was the point of it, that he did it, and everyone should have said, oh, God, it's a Halloween story. And they were riding, except most people in California are the ones who freaked out, I think. But.
All right. I promise to try, and maybe I'll double my dose this evening and be in a better state tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Oh, it'll be the 30th next time we're on, so we can redo the War of the Worlds. I'll be the Americans and you be the extraterrestrial.
I'd love to, because they killed people, right? I can.
That's right.
I can.
It really was
channel
wonderful.
my hostility.
And that magnificent voice of his. That was so. And ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. That's it. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I feel like I should apologize for my general temperament today. And
we'll think of you in the afternoon.
And
may it pass quickly.
Yeah, indeed. Tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.